You know, of all the pieces of technology in this game room, I think the thing I pick up the most often, outside of the Nintendo Switch, is my NeoGeo Pocket Color. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Pegs. Glad you're here. For those that have been here for a while, thank you so much for your patience as I work on some mental health stuff. Doing a hell of a lot better. Glad to be back making a video for you guys. Hope you enjoy this one. Today, I want to talk about this little system because I think it's a pretty remarkable little device. It's a wonderful gaming experience. Like, there's so much to love about it. The library, while limited here in the States, is pretty much, if you take the slot machine and the pachinko machine games out of the equation, pretty much all bangers. The controls on the system are fantastic. Like, the biggest flaw the system has was a lack of support here in the States and a terrible ass screen. But there are ways to make that better. In fact, if you happen to know the right people, you can get a beautiful color, bright, beautiful IPS screen installed on your system. Thank you to my friend Rob for getting this done for me. You guys know Rob. Retro Rob, formerly Retro Rob. Now it's just Rob. And Rob's next guest that isn't happening anymore. There are no more next guests. So today we're talking about the NeoGeo Pocket Color system, one of my favorite video game consoles out there. And we're talking about the 10 best games in the library on it. Now, as always with these 10 best lists, this is not a subjective list whatsoever. No, that's wrong. This is not an objective list whatsoever. This is completely subjective. This is all my opinion. Your opinion may vary. In fact, I'm sure it does. I want to kick things off with an honorable mention, and it is Pac-Man. Pac-Man is such a classic and kind of ubiquitous game. We all understand it. We all know it. We all love it. It is incredibly easy to understand, pick up, and grasp. It's a maze chase. That's all it is. You go around, you eat the dots, you're good to go. I love the version of the NeoGeo Pocket Color, though, because it is true to the arcade machine. So it is not something that is kind of like derivative or anything like that. It doesn't try to do too much. It just gives you Pac-Man. The best part about it is you can play zoomed in or you can zoom out and have the full view of the map as you're going. And that's literally the best way you can play it, the best way you can go through it. It just feels great. And there's something about, like, listen to this. Those clicks of that stick, there's just something about it that make it fantastic for arcade games like Pac-Man. It's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful game. I mean, of course, it's a wonderful game. It's Pac-Man, but it is something that I just truly, truly love. Now, hey, before we get into the top 10 list, this coming weekend, the 27th, 28th, and 29th, I am going to be in Louisville, Kentucky at the Louisville Arcade Expo. Cannot wait to see folks there. Please do come out if you are in the Louisville area. I would love to say hello. I'll be hanging out with John Riggs. We'll be looking at all the different arcade machines and all the different vendors that we have available. Full coverage of the event will be happening afterwards. So if you aren't able to make it out to the show, please be sure to tune in and check out my recap. But if you are going to be there, let me know. I'd love to see you. Okay, so first up, number one game, one I have to talk about, and not number one, but number 10. None, these aren't in any particular order. This is just my 10 favorites, basically, the ones that I think are the best. We're going to kick things off with Baseball Stars Color. If you haven't played it, surprised, because I'm surprised, legitimately, because Baseball Stars is one of those games that I think is just kind of a signature experience for most people my age. Whether you played it in a Neo Geo MVS system at the arcades or you played it originally on the NES, which I think where probably 99.9% of my viewers did play it originally, you have a positive memory of Baseball Stars. And Baseball Stars Color on the Pocket Color is fantastic. It feels so nice. The controls are great. The gameplay is wonderful. It is a signature Baseball Stars experience and just kind of a perfect game to put on to the NeoGeo Pocket Color. And there were no shortage of great sports games on the Neo. Well, there was only 3, but it was all 3 were really good. Like there's going to be 2 on this list, but I wanted to kick things off with Baseball Stars Color just because it's such a great title. And if you do have positive memories of Baseball Stars on the NES, you're going to love it on this one as well. It's a phenomenal title from top to bottom, and I think one of the strongest games on the system. After that, we're going to hop over to King of Fighters Round 2. Now, there are legitimately no shortage of great fighting games on this system. There were a ton of them released. It was its main, I would say probably main driver were great fighting game ports. And if they weren't fighting games, they were puzzle games, because that was kind of really where it made its bread and butter, was between fighting games and puzzle games. But King of Fighters R2 is spectacular, and I think it means Round 2. I'm not 100% positive. I did not think this was going to be a great game when I first played it back in 1999 or 2000. I didn't see how it could possibly work. I'm a huge King of Fighters fan. I've been a fan of King of Fighters since King of Fighters 95. I originally played it on the PlayStation. Yep, PS1, that's where I've got the disc. And it was one that I just immediately loved. I had played Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury before that, but the King of Fighters series was one where my love affair with that particular franchise began on the PS1. So to see it go from a console that had 6 or 8 buttons that you were able to configure down to 2 didn't make any sense to me. I didn't see how it could possibly work. And what SNK was able to do was put together something absolutely remarkable, because the gameplay is perfect. It makes use of both the A and the B button for both punch and kick. The controls are set up perfectly well. They're familiar. They're responsive. Again, that joystick is like a fantastic integration for this system to be able to pull off a lot of these combos and attacks, these special attacks in a fighting game. And KOF Round 2, or King of Fighters R2, whatever initialization you want to go with, is a great way to play it. You can't go wrong with Samurai Showdown 2 either. That's another wonderful experience. That's not on this list. It was that close to being on the list, but it was one that I think King of Fighters kind of won out, just because my love of that one is a little bit stronger than my love of Samurai Showdown or Samurai Spirits, depending on where you're from. But on the NeoGeo Pocket Color, absolutely magnificent. And the best part, all these games, I'm pretty sure, no, not all of them. There's a couple on here that you won't be able to, but a lot of these games are able to be played on the NeoGeo Pocket Color collections on the Nintendo Switch. So Volume 1 and Volume 2 contain a lot of these titles. So if you don't have original hardware, there are options to play it there on modern systems. Next up, a puzzle game. One of my favorite puzzle games, actually, and one that I had never really considered when the system was originally out. I didn't play it until a couple of years ago, and it was one that when I finally got to try it out, I was just completely enamored with the concept, because it's such a great idea. It's a little bit Pac-Man. It's called Crush Roller. I should probably introduce the title. It's called Crush Roller, and it's a little bit like Pac-Man because there is a maze that you have to navigate, but as you move, you're going to fill in the blank areas with paint. Now, that doesn't seem like it's too hard, but there are enemies on the screen, and the enemies will, if you collide with them, will kill you, and you'll have to start over. One of the things I really find interesting about the game, though, is that as the enemies navigate the maze themselves, if they walk over any areas that you have painted, they will leave footprints and remove the paint from that area. So you will have to go back over it with your roller. It's a really, really clever game, a really clever concept, and something that is, again, because of the way that the system is built, it's kind of perfectly tailored for it. The controls are great, it looks good, the sound is really fun, and it's just one of those games that I think is kind of overlooked and forgotten in the grand scheme of handheld gaming, which is really a shame, because it's a positive title, it's incredibly fun, and it's just really smartly designed. Absolutely love it, and just one of those great, great experiences overall in the NeoGeo Pocket Color. All right, we're going to go now to another fighting game, and this is going to be the last fighting game on this list. Yes, it is, he said with confidence. This is the last fighting game on this list. This is one of the signature games on the console. It's Capcom versus SNK Match of the Millennium. This was released in conjunction when we were starting to get like Capcom versus SNK, SVC Chaos, stuff like that, Capcom versus SNK 1 and 2. This was the handheld version of that, and it took a lot of what worked with King of Fighters R2 and Samurai Showdown 2 and took that gameplay style and those crisp controls and just put it into a handheld system and made it work. Again, I was doubtful when it first released. I didn't think it was going to be fun, but it just works, man. Like the lineup is great. The characters are wonderful. The character designs in the game are fantastic. Like if you were a fan of kind of a Mega Man style character design or something a little bit akin to things like Puzzle Fighter or things like that, you're going to love the look of this game and all of the fighting games on the NeoGeo Pocket Color, because they all kind of share that design element and that look. It's just fun. And the concept and the idea of Capcom and SNK crossing over and having a fighting game at the time was unheard of. It wasn't something I ever thought was going to happen, but I mean, it's pretty common today. I mean, we have, Street Fighter characters showing up in King of Fighters. We have King of Fighters characters showing up in Street Fighter. Now it's just expected. But back then, no, that didn't happen. This was almost like our first Smash Brothers, really, where we saw characters from different companies crossing over together in a fighting contest. It was awesome. It was a wonderful experience. That is still a fantastic game today, and just a really interesting kind of side adventure in the grand scheme of things when you look at something like SNK versus Capcom and Capcom versus SNK 1 and 2. It's really, really awesome. All right, next up, we're going to go to another classic SNK franchise, and that is Metal Slug. And either one of the Metal Slug games on the console is fantastic. I want to talk about Metal Slug First Mission just because it's the one I'm more familiar with, that I've spent more time with. I didn't get Second Mission until last year, so I don't have as much experience with it. I'm sure it plays fantastically well, and it's a great experience all the way through, but I know First Mission very well, and it's amazing. So one of the kind of hallmarks of what makes Metal Slug fantastic is that it's incredibly difficult. It's one of the hardest arcade games out there. It's a run and gun shooter where you're able to pick up like weapon power-ups and rescue hostages and get into different vehicles and things like that that have high-powered weaponry. But it's a one-hit kill. And that's kind of a bummer in the arcade. I mean, it's like understandable in the arcade because they're trying to get your quarters, but on a handheld system, that would kind of suck. It wouldn't be terribly fun. So one of the things that they changed with Metal Slug First Mission and Second Mission was they added a life bar, so you were actually able to get hit multiple times. It made the game a little bit more accessible, a little more approachable, which I really liked, and it didn't suffer the gameplay at all. Like the gameplay was still fun, it was still difficult, it was still enjoyable, and it just was a really wonderful experience to go back to and to see what was a phenomenal arcade experience in the palm of your hand. Something that probably shouldn't have worked as well as it did was a great overall experience on the Pocket Color. I know both of those are on the NeoGeo Pocket Color collection, so if you are interested in those games, please do be sure to check them out, because I don't think you'll be disappointed, especially if you're a fan of the Metal Slug games and you've never played that one. Absolutely worth checking out. Also, Metal Slug Advance on the GBA, another great experience, so check that one out too. All right, our next sports game, we're going to go with a golf title on the console, and that is Neo Turf Masters. Neo Turf Masters is wonderful. There's a long history of great arcade experiences in golf from SNK, and this one captures that brilliantly well. It plays beautifully. Like the gameplay is crisp. It's classic golf. Like, you understand how to play it. You tap a button, you tap the button again, and then you tap it again for accuracy. It's just understandable. It's just easy to pick up and play. If you've ever played an 8-bit golf game, you can play this one. And the thing that I like about it is that it's just fun. Like, they don't try to do too much. They don't try to go too crazy with it. There's 3 courses, I think 6 or 8 different character archetypes that you can play as. They all have different skill abilities, but they all essentially play the same. Just some can drive the ball a little bit further. Some have better control over hooks and slices and things like that. But the gameplay itself, like getting onto the course and playing one of those 3 courses, is absolutely magnificent. It is just purely fun. Like, it doesn't try to do too much. It doesn't go too far into the sim or too far into the arcade. Like, it toes the line right down the middle, and it's a wonderful, wonderful game from top to bottom. One thing that was sorely lacking on the NeoGeo Pocket Color were RPGs, and there's only really one I can think of, and that would be Biomotor Unitron, which is not only a blast to say, what's up, Lindsay, it is also a blast to play. It is a really, really clever game. So think of it a little bit like Pokemon, a little bit like... No, I think that's probably the best way to put it. It's a little Pokemon-esque. Not completely, because you're able to completely customize and kit out your character. It's almost like Chibi Robo, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Or not Chibi Robo. Not Chibi Robo. What was that game called? There's a GameCube and an N64 title that I can't think of the name of. I'll put it on screen right now. Just laugh at me because I can't remember. It was a robot fighting game that was on Nintendo titles or Nintendo consoles that was really, really fun. And this one kind of borrows from that a little bit. It's not an arena fighter or anything like that. It's just it's a turn-based battle. And your character, your robot that you collect, you're able to attach different limbs to, different abilities, different like kind of traits and things like that by going to the store and buying new add-ons for your character. And it's really clever. Like, the biggest complaint I have about Biomotor Unitron is that the soundtrack is inconsistent, and not that some of it's good and some of it's bad. It's just sometimes it doesn't play. There's plenty of silence in the game where you're only getting sound effects and not actually music, and that is a shame because overall the soundtrack is good. It's just not always there. But it is a really, really fun title, and it's a clever spin on what could have been just another kind of run-of-the-mill hack-and-slash fantasy RPG. They put a little bit of a sci-fi spin on it, and it works. It was a Custom Robo Arena. That's it. Custom Robo, not Chibi Robo. I remembered. And it's one of those things that I just think is a signature and a must-own game for people that are collecting for the NeoGeo Pocket Color. It was one of the first, the big ticket games that I got on the console, because it was one that had to have. I had played it when it originally released. I thought it was fantastic, and to own it again and to have it back is it's just a great experience. And it's wonderful to play in handheld because you can play it in bite-sized increments. You don't have to like sink hours upon hours upon hours into it to really feel an accomplishment. You can play for an hour and you're good, and that's great. It's a wonderful experience for commutes, for being just kind of waiting for something to happen. Like if you're waiting for a show to start or something like that, it's a great way to pass some time. All right, next up is a really kind of, it feels a little bit like a cross between Fester's Quest and Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and that's Dark Arms Beastbusters 99, where it's a top-down kind of wandering shooter, where it plays a little bit like both of those games kind of mixed together, but it's a little bit more serious. It's not as goofy as those two. The gameplay is really fun. It's a really well-designed title. It's challenging, which is really nice. It is one of, I think, the more difficult titles on the console, which is kind of a nice change of pace, because most of them are pretty easily approachable, pretty easily accessible, and this one kind of switches it up a little bit, making it a little more challenging, and I really enjoy that. The gameplay is solid. It's a really fun game that I think doesn't get a lot of recognition, because I don't really know a whole lot of people beyond like myself and my friend Mondane who really know much about it, but it's one that I really enjoy, and I think is something that is a strong entry on the console and offers a different gameplay experience than really anything else on the system, which is always a welcome experience and always a welcome addition to a library when you are able to provide something like that. All right, one of my favorites, and this was one when I was doing the Summer of Sega a couple of years ago, and I started the NeoGeo Pocket Color pursuit to go after the entire library. One of the first games I wanted to pick up was Sonic Pocket Adventure, and it was something that I had a hell of a time finding, because when I initially kind of naively started this quest, I was thinking, oh, this will take a year and I'll be done. And here we are going into year 3, and I'm not really there. I'm over halfway, but the stuff that's left of the big ticket games, I was kind of foolishly thinking that I would be able to find these kind of regularly at video game conventions. And in a lot of cases, I do. I find a lot of stuff at conventions, but a lot of the stuff I find are the ones that everyone owns. Stuff like King of Fighters R2, Baseball Stars Color, stuff like that everyone had, and not some of the more obscure titles like this one, or ones that were kind of overlooked in favor of console games. So Sonic Pocket Adventure is a Sonic 2D experience. It plays just like any other 2D Sonic. You are able to just immediately get in and go. It's fast. It is done by the same team that did the Sonic Advance games. So if you like those games, you're going to love this one, because you can see where a lot of the DNA that went into those games really started here. Because while it is a signature Sonic 2D experience, there are some changes made and some slight alterations and kind of experiences in this game that are different than traditional Sonic games like we experienced on the Genesis. It just feels a little bit different. You can tell this isn't Sonic Team developing it. This was somebody else, but it just is so much fun, and it's such a great title. It is one of those games that the console didn't get a lot of support from third parties. It really didn't. It was something where you got a lot of support from Capcom, you got a little bit of support from Sega, and you got a little bit of support from Namco Bandai, but this was one where it really stood out, and you were able to really see what the possibilities were for this console if it had been supported more. And it's unfortunate that it didn't, because I really think this is kind of one of those signature gameplay experiences that I think if people had played it would have gone like, oh my god, this is amazing. And instead they just missed it. They didn't get a chance to, and that's unfortunate. But you can still play it today, and it's great. It's a fantastic game. Last one on the list, and what I do think is, while I was going in no particular order, what I do think is probably the most signature experience on the console, and what I do think is probably the best game on the console, is Capcom versus SNK Card Fighters Clash. Either the Capcom or the SNK edition, doesn't matter. They're the same game, other than like some starting cards as far as I'm aware. It is a traditional deck building game where you're battling against other players using characters from the SNK or the Capcom universe. It's great. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a quasi RPG. It's more of a strategy game than an RPG, because you need to really think about where you're going to place characters and who you're going to attack and how you're going to reduce your opponent's health down by placing your characters on the grid pattern or in the field of play, and building your deck out and stuff like that. It's definitely more strategic than it is just a traditional RPG, because there's not really, I mean, there's some role-playing elements, but you're not playing a role. It's a great game, though. And it's one that I think is just... It's a shame that we haven't seen that continue to move forward. Like, we got the Capcom versus SNK game, or Card Fighters Clash game, on the DS, which had its own share of problems and its own share of misery behind not only the game being a little bit different and not quite as familiar and easily accessible as it is on the Pocket Color, but also the game-breaking bug where you weren't able to beat it until the revision released. And it's one that I think it's, like I said, it's a shame that it didn't keep going forward, because I think this is something that is like tailor-made for something like the Nintendo Switch, or tailor-made for mobile devices, that you could just play and challenge somebody and have a blast, and it would just be an absolutely wonderful experience. Like, just the gacha mechanics alone for a mobile game, to me, just like scream this title. But it is one that I would love to see kind of resuscitated and brought back by either Capcom or SNK, to just show that there's still meat on that bone. There's still something there that could draw new players in. Like, I think about stuff like the Baten Kaitos games, or I think about stuff like Slay the Spire, or SteamWorld Quest, Hand of Gilgamesh, that are card battlers that really take stuff that was laid out well in this game, and stuff like Hearthstone, even like back before it became a cesspit or a cesspool, that was really just taking the concept of what was introduced in SNK versus Capcom Card Fighters Clash and kind of perfecting it. And I would love to see that take from SNK or Capcom today and see what they were able to come up with. I think it would be amazing. That's it. That's my list. Those are the 10 best games as far as I'm concerned on the NeoGeo Pocket Color. As always, this is just my opinion. This isn't a serious discussion. This is just an excuse for me to tell you what my favorites are. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have an experience with the NeoGeo Pocket Color, let me know your favorite games in the comments below. If you've never played it, what's stopping you? I'd love to hear from you. Like I said, there's options today to be able to play these games either through legal means or through emulation. They emulate very easily, trust me. Until next time, folks, I've been Jay. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. Remember, I'm going to be at the Louisville Arcade Expo next weekend in Louisville, Kentucky. Would love to see you there. Remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.